That said, there is one thing that is abundantly clear. The current monetary market paradigm is coming to an end, and it will be replaced with an economic system that is based on the available resources of this planet. That said, we would rather it that it's one on access abundance, cooperation, clean environments, and harmony with nature, and not one based on competition and indifferential advantage. Our biggest obstacle, really, is that we don't get to enough people, and that the countries around this world end up falling back into one of the older, paradigms, whether it be communism or socialism or fascism or whatever. This is why this movement is so important. It's why I'm so glad to see so many of you here today, because this message is actually getting out there, and it's getting out there all over the world, and it's the only way we are going to transition out of this system. In the transition, the problems that exist at the time will determine what will be done and where the resources will be allocated. People who volunteer to be in the first cities will be assigned to what is needed. We have inherited very poor conditions and many disasters that have to be overcome, and the resources we have at the time will go towards resolving these urgent matters. People working with us at the beginning will be working on these problems that have to be resolved towards our stated goals. People will be serving under those who have specialised skills in certain areas. A list of professionals that are needed will be posted, but people will be trained as generalists as well. I think we can all agree that no one wants a carpet fitter to do your medical surgery. Stanley knives in the brain, not good. The standard of living will be constantly updated for all, but in the beginning, scarce resources will be shared. For instance, someone may donate their lawnmowers. Oh, what did I do? That's good. That's good. So, for instance, someone may donate their lawnmowers. Instead of everyone mowing their lawns with their own individual mowers and needing a mower, there maybe only needs to be a certain number to take care of the entire city. Who's going to mow your lawn? Well, I know a lot of people that love gardening and would be more than happy to spend their whole day in the city mowing lawns and treating gardens and God knows what else. People themselves decide what materials they'll use, what they'd like to work with in regards to their personal use. But ultimately, it is the availability of these materials that determines this. For example, if someone suggests that every roof is made out of titanium, since it doesn't readily rust, then the availability and use would be determined by surveys done. Updated surveys are done as to how much titanium we have, the amount of resources needed to extract it, and then other materials available that would work. Are there other materials that are available? Are there other materials in development that could actually be used in replacement that are more abundant? It's the scientific method used to determine what materials we use, when we use them, how we use them, rather than someone's opinion, especially politicians. Where there are scarce resources, people will be working on substitutes or composites to counteract these scarce items and come up with substitute materials that may even be more beneficial, such as materials that serve many purposes for covering roofs, while acting as heat concentrators as well. Before moving into the city, people would need to be orientated to how that city would work. How they acquire their goods, how they acquire services, how they can participate in research, their own projects or even activities that they may want to do. They're not under the dictate of anyone. People will learn that they don't need to take more than they need and understand that if they do, it will just be a burden to themselves. If I go into Tesco's tomorrow and I take, I don't know, 20 trolleys worth of food and I take it home and I've got a small freezer, and what am I going to do with 20 trolleys worth of food? It's just going to spoil in my house, it's going to rot and smell my house out. It's not a good idea, is it? I'm pretty sure none of you would go home with 20 trolleys of food. Apart from Ben, maybe. Ben probably would. People will learn they don't need to take more than they need and understand it will be a burden. So although during the transition there will be those who have remnants of past behaviours and the job is to present more appropriate values to carry out the new social direction to enhance their lives and others. This is why in the movement our real prime goal is to change the values of people because the values that are existing in our current system would cause havoc in a resource-based economy. Okay, so future projects and how you guys can help. The next major step for the Venus project, as far as the transition is concerned, and you can find this information on their website, is that they would like to create a major motion picture for worldwide release in the mainstream cinemas to inform large numbers of people globally about the benefits of living in a resource-based economy and how we can transition from our current paradigm. Whilst we understand that the Zeitgeist Movement does not itself advocate the use of money to further its goals on activism and the like, it is still down to certain individuals within certain chapters, etc., that have made events like this possible. Something like this costs many thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to put deposits down for. Those deposits don't exist before the tickets are bought. So what tends to happen is certain coordinators or groups of people within the movement dig into their pocket and they pay the deposits and they just hope that they're going to break even at the end of the day. I can see a time where we're going to have to look at some means of funding for these events that is a little bit more efficient and less painful on certain individuals within the movement. The fact remains that as long as we are under this existing monetary system, without access to land, resources, scientific and technical products, the goods and services of those design professionals required to create a test city, this will require an enormous amount of funding within this current system. We don't have that funding currently. We intend to utilise cutting-edge 3D within this movie. Such companies as Weta Digital or Industrial Light and Magic, the kind of people that worked behind Avatar or Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, for example. The worldwide profits from this major motion picture release would then be used to fund the research and development city and showcase the viability of the Venus project and a resource-based economy to the world's press. Next you'll see a short video from Jacques and Roxanne at the Venus project.
Yes. We feel it's really important to do a major motion picture now to get to the general public, to introduce to them what science and technology can do under the direction of the Venus Project within a resource-based economy.
I think a motion picture can be played over and over again. It can be translated into many different languages, and it could do far more than my personal lectures because it travels all over the world. And in a motion picture, you can answer all the questions that people ask.
We also feel while Jacques is still alive, he is the best person to put this film together. He has worked all his life to arrive at this direction. He hasn't just read books. He has experimented and worked with people and worked with technology and showed just how a resource-based economy can function and what it will look like. So to us, it's very important to have Jacques involved in this film.
The basic ideas for the film are laid out precisely, and they are laid out in accordance with the plans of the Venus Project. If you don't have a public prepared to accept the Venus Project, there is no other way.
All of the future scenarios in science fiction films are detrimental, are scary, are technology overcoming and killing people, dictatorial governments and technology watching your every move. This is quite the opposite of the Venus Project for anybody who knows about it. And this is what we want to get across to the public, that you don't have to be afraid of technology We want to show how the methods of science can be used to enhance everyone's life and preserve the environment.
If we spent the money any other way, I don't think it would be as effective. We need a large following to get this implemented.
People don't know what's missing. They don't know any other system. So we want to show life in a resource-based economy, then show flashbacks of how we get from here to there, and do it in an entertaining way so we could bring the public along with it.
The Venus Project story is already fairly explicit, and what we need perhaps from a writer is putting it in terms that might be easily understood or acceptable.
It will have a lot of CGI in it, which is expensive because it does take place in the future.
But it depends on when and what kind of funds we get. That will dictate, say, the type of script.
But we feel now is a time to have the Zeitgeist members get behind this if they want to see a better world, if they want to see a transition that may not be as painful. The film would help in that way to make an easier transition.
The more funding, the more elaboration. That depends on what people do to help support the project.
If we're going for donations for this film, then it would be totally transparent. We would have information on the internet as to how much has come in, where it's going to, and we have to do this because we're aiming to get the donations through our nonprofit 501c3 organization called Future by Design. And lawfully, everything has to be transparent, and it would be.
If we do make a profit, we will build the first city, or we will do additional films, shorter films, but many of them.
People will walk out of this film with a definite direction to work towards and knowing the difference between what they have today and the possibilities of the future within a resource-based economy. We want them to understand it so much so they'd walk out and say, why don't we live like this today?
Finally, I'd just like to draw your attention to our various current ongoing projects and how you can get involved with them. Firstly, there's our global scientific and technical database. This database is for professionals in scientific and technical fields to register as future volunteers that could be called upon if and when TVP cities are first designed. Next is our production of 3D models of Jacques' thousands of designs and concept sketches for use in visualizations, movies and other media. If you have experience in 3D modelling and computer-generated 3D graphics, we'd like you to assist us in this huge ongoing project. I'll probably be about 95 by the time I get finished with all these sketches. You can email us at mail@thevenusprojectdesign.com. We do have some business cards, I believe, that we can hand out. Also check out our website, thevenusprojectdesign.com. There's lots of videos on there about current technologies, etc. It's quite an entertaining site, if I say so myself. As a final note, following on from our successful exhibition in Eindhoven last year, we have reproduced as much of the exhibition that we did there as possible, minus the live 3D walkthrough of our first city model that was present in Eindhoven. We just didn't have the money for the software for that, which was about 10,000 euros. However, all of the latest 3D renders our team and volunteers have produced are on show in the exhibition next door. So I hope you all enjoy that, and thank you for listening. I'm sorry.